Here we are. Not only is it episode 14, the 1 year anniversary episode. Can you believe it? 1 year of this. I had some ideas for today. We're gonna get into it. The ideas that are not gonna happen. Crazy ideas, outrageous ideas. I'm gonna explain it, but I didn't have cooperative outside parties. We'll get into it. I want to let people know first of all, thanks to everyone who's been listening for the last year. The audience is growing slowly but surely, and finally, we are on social media. You can follow us now. We're on Instagram, Form VOLTRON Podcast on Instagram, and you can email us now, formvoltronshow@protonmail.com. If you send a message or send an email, despite the way the show might come off or the digging in when it pertains to the beliefs expressed on here, I am pretty easygoing. I'm polite, and I'm open to all different ideas, even if they disagree with what I'm saying. So just want to say that. Let's see. I think that's it those are the two things I wanted to announce. So there you go. We're on Instagram and the email address as well. Today, let me start by saying this. Here's my State of the Union address for this show for the last year. And I just want to talk about, I think there's some bitterness in me, and I'm going to talk about it today, where I've always said what I think needs to happen in this country, in the world, things that need to change. I've always tried to be part of the solution. I've done my little thing. And there's been many times where maybe there was an idea I expressed for sometimes decades before it finally kind of reached a bigger audience. And I've always said I've never wanted credit or needed credit for any of this. And I'm not saying I have all the answers or that everything you hear out there, I thought of it first. That's crazy. I'm not saying that at all. That'd be conceited of me. But what I don't like, and what I've noticed has happened a lot, and it's happened even recently, and it's starting to bug me a little bit, is I think I find myself in situations where I'm disrespected and looked down on for ideas that I know maybe it might sound crazy to people now, but like all the other things I was saying sometimes 30 years ago, back in junior high, are now mainstream. So after a while, it gets frustrating when I've got this history of people looking at me like I'm crazy or laughing at me or being nasty to me. And then I can name by name seeing those same people years later jumping on board with those ideas and becoming fanatical about it, despite laughing at me when I first said it. So after a while, it just kind of wears on me. I would say specifically, there's a community, despite being a very left-wing state, there is a very strong kind of conservative talk show radio, I guess you would say, kind of community out here in the state. And there's even people running for office that are kind of tied in with that. There's websites, there's periodicals. And I think I get it the most kind of from that community. You don't have to like my ideas. You can even think I'm crazy. But I don't like when people are rude to me. And people in that community have been rude to me. And like with the politicians here, what really drives me nuts is some of these talk radio shows, there are people, whether it be the hosts or the producers or people that work at the stations, you hear them saying, they bounced around to different stations, and they kind of ended up in Massachusetts. Now, I'm a believer that you can go anywhere in the world you want. You can go to any state you want, any country, and you should be welcome anywhere to do what you want to do, get the job you want. You want to live there. I am not the king of this state. I do not dictate what people can and cannot do. I do not dictate who gets to live here. I do not think that I dictate that. Anyone at any time can travel here, live here, and make a life for themselves. But what I would hope at the very least, some acknowledgement, some respect from those people that I was out here fighting this battle, speaking the way I'm speaking now on this podcast. Again, I was very young when I got into this. Early 90s, possibly late 80s. I've gone over it on this show. I've spoken about it on It's a Hard Rock Life, that podcast, which is kind of the mothership podcast to this show. Again, by the way, thanks to It's a Hard Rock Life. Always got to shout them out. Kevin, Brian, who's here working with me, is part of that as well. We're using their studio. It was Brian's idea to do the show, and I think Kevin kind of might have nudged me a little bit too. Don't quote me on that, but I think he had a hand in kind of telling me this would be a good idea. But on that show, I've been a guest many times on there, and I've told the stories. I've gone over how I started developing these ideas at a very young age. And again, it's frustrating to me when I made comments back in 8th grade about, hey, there's a communist takeover. Something bad is happening in this country, and we need to start educating ourselves. And I will tell you this, it was nearly impossible to tell an adult conservative or to convey this information to them. They were so resistant to it. They would get upset. They would tell you, if you don't like it, get out of the country. This is what America is if you don't like it. So imagine my frustration now. Years later, Rush Limbaugh comes along, says, and Rush was doing his thing in the late 80s, but I'm talking, it took a while. It was much later before he became this huge, mega kind of mainstream guy. And, of course, people like Ron Paul came along, and they started talking about rights being taken away, that, there is communist indoctrination going on, whether it be in the schools or the politicians that are bringing it to the masses, the media. And now, everywhere I go, these same conservative adults, and let's be honest, it's baby boomers, and it's the World War II generation. I sometimes I'm realizing now I call them the golden generation. They're called the greatest generation. I don't think it really matters. The World War II era people, those were my grandparents, the baby boomers, my parents, uncles, aunts, school teachers. To hear them now, years later, going nuts, acknowledging this, saying we need to stop it. Put yourself in my shoes for just a moment. The frustration to hear people now rallying, educating themselves, when it wasn't that long ago that I had the same message. And I was disregarded, and many times met with a lot of anger. A lot of anger. That would never happen in this country. That it gets back to what I've talked about before on this show. People, man, unless it's someone in a newspaper or on TV or on the radio, there has to be some established form of media for that message to come through. Whether the message is good or bad, whether it's poisonous or positive, people have been conditioned. It's sad. They'll listen to their local news, or they'll listen to Rush Limbaugh before they'll listen to a friend or a family member. And I think there's something wrong with that. I will guarantee you there are people in these audiences, in the local little circuits, conservative blog community, um, however you want to define it, that there was a time when I was saying what I was saying and they were not on board. The conservatives in this state and probably in the country have been very, very. What is the conservative movement now? What is rebelling against the status quo? Make no mistake, they were very, very slow to start this movement. Probably too slow. So slow it might be too late. I was always there. I was in this state. I was one of the first ones way, way back as a kid, as a teenager. I was one of the first. And this isn't meant to be arrogant. It isn't meant to be a megalomaniac. It isn't meant to say, hey, everybody, look at me. I am not like that at all. I'm not trying to be like that. But I'm inspired to remind people about it when there are people in the local circles, the conservative circles, that are still looking at me like I'm nuts. For example, if I'm coming out of a store and someone says, hey, can I get your signature? I'm running for whatever. I'm Republican. I'm trying to take down the Democrat. And I say, you know what? And all I have to do is look around. You see that camera right there, that security camera? Yeah, the one on the traffic light pointing right at us, watching everything we're doing, recording us. Here's my number. Call me when you can guarantee me that that's going to come down, and then I'll sign your paper. I'll vote for you. And they look at me, they start backing up like they're terrified. They're not expecting me to say something like that. What it's going to take to change things is what you would categorize as lunacy. What I say, what I do is lunacy. To you. To me, it's normal. To me, it's what has to be done. We sat in these classrooms and learned about history and learned about these radicals that started the country. But yet, when you are met with this same enthusiasm, this same thinking outside of the box, you're afraid of it. Most of these people listening that are calling into the local talk stations, they're still afraid of it. I laugh when I hear these local talk show hosts go, well, if we all stop paying our income tax at once, will you stop with that? Good luck getting everybody. You need a mass move. We're not there yet. You're not there yet. You are not there yet. You would need everybody in the state to do it at once. And you're not there yet. You're not that organized. And people are too afraid to do it. They're too afraid. Now, I've heard mention that Donald Trump might suggest some type of a movement. Yeah, if Donald Trump said to do it, yes, people would do it. But until you can get somebody on the television to say it, somebody in power. Like I said, man, if you got a yellow vest and orange cones, you can get people to do anything. But I don't have that. I'm not that. I don't have a tie and suit. I'm not on a podium. I'm not having press conferences. And even the local talk radio shows, as well as they're doing, in conservative talk radio, you wouldn't know it, but it is big in Massachusetts. They're still not on the level that they can do that. They're just not. A lot of these stations are very small, believe it or not. They're kind of, you'd be surprised, a lot of big stations, you go inside, they kind of look like little mom and pop operations. You're not there yet. You're not even close. But I respect you. I respect the effort. So please respect me. And don't look at me like I'm crazy when I shoot out ideas like what I'm about to say next. Today is the 1 year anniversary show. Here was my idea, and it didn't happen. And I'm going to name names. The idea I had for this show, during the coronavirus, there were politicians who took your rights, whose behavior was atrocious. They were dictators. And they didn't lose an ounce of sleep over it. Not an ounce. And many of them Their life has been made a lot better since they went along with the coronavirus. They've gotten big jobs in Washington, D.C. Some of them, it's not even political jobs. They left the public service wing of the world and went into private business, and they're making a lot of money, and they're doing well. My idea was to get in touch with these people, and many of them, most of them, during the virus, were caught not obeying their own rules. And I wanted them to come on this show, through a Zoom call, and talk to me, and talk to this audience, and talk to you, the taxpayer, about why you had to follow the rules, but they didn't. So let's go through this list. Gina Raimondo, Rhode Island. I left several polite messages, detailed how to get in touch with me, how to get in touch with this show, inviting Gina Raimondo on this show to explain why she was harassing and threatening people, threatening to use the police, the state police, to show up at your gathering if you were out there hanging out, not wearing a mask. And then on 2 separate occasions, she was caught without a mask herself. 2 separate occasions. Why, Gina, is it okay for you to harass people, but then get caught without a mask yourself? And I came in peace. I was nice. I was all these people. I was very cordial. This was not meant to be a nasty debate. I just want answers. You deserve answers. Not at a press conference where people are selected and have to go through a whole regiment to get into the press conference so that nobody asks her these type of questions. No answer. I believe she's Secretary of Commerce, paid for by the people, working for the government, and she owes you absolutely no explanation at all. They couldn't even get back to me. Couldn't even be bothered to get back. Charlie Baker got in touch with the National College Athletic Association. I believe that's what NCAA stands for. That's where he works now. Couldn't be bothered. Actually talked to someone in the building. Put me through to an assistant in his department. Now, I don't know if I would guess I don't know what he does these days. The building's out in Indiana. I gotta guess he's working from Massachusetts, so I'm not implying he was in the building. But somebody who knows how to get in touch with him got the message. Again, I was polite. I said I wanted to be productive. I'm not out to pick anyone apart. I just want answers. It's time these guys give answers. Charlie Baker, no answer. Couldn't be bothered. Couldn't give me or you the respect of a call back or an email back. Marty Walsh. Let's show him some respect. Marty Walsh, mayor of Boston, whose influence it stretched all over the state. See, a lot of people wonder about the Marty Walsh thing because I don't live in Boston. Marty Walsh was very influential on the television when he did his press conferences. People around the state were listening to him and looking to him with his ridiculous shelter-in-place rhetoric, this nonsense. Wear a mask. If you go to Boston without a mask, you will be paying a fine. And what did he do? We all know. He was down on the South Shore, caught without a mask. Let's give him some respect. His assistant got back to me. Marty Walsh declined. Marty Walsh declined. Somewhere out there, Marty Walsh knows about Form VOLTRON now, which is cool. But they got back to me. I respect that. If they don't want to get back, that's fine. But again, he owes you no explanation. These people are educated. They are intelligent. If someone challenges me in my beliefs and wants me to go on a show and debate them, I'm going to do it because I'm confident in what I believe. I'm confident in my stance. They are displaying lack of confidence. Let's continue on. Chris Sununu up in New Hampshire. Sununu was not caught disobeying his own rules. My issue with Sununu is I just want to simply ask him about this New Hampshire live free or die nonsense. And it is nonsense. Because I had to go up to New Hampshire during the virus, and the day before I went up, they initiated a mask mandate. So I just want to ask him about that. That's silliness. Last but not least, Gavin Newsom, California. Again, making people's lives miserable and not following his own rules. And then just looking like a clown trying to explain it away. Something to the effect of, well, how I was behaving was in the spirit of protecting ourselves from the virus. Okay. Whatever, dude. Still kind of waiting on that one. I'm not emailing anyone else. I'm not calling anyone else. I'll put it this way. I'm pretty sure they got the message. I'm not going to get into the details. I'll give the benefit of the doubt and say bit inconclusive. But if the life of everyone in this audience, if their lives depended on it, I'd say he got the message. And again, I was not worth even an email back. I'm going to continue on with this. But, you know, I talked to Brian about this. And I said one of the things I wanted to do with this show is get the opposition on here. Show that I am humble. Show that I am not a know-it-all. Get some people who disagree with me, who don't see things the way I see it. And let them come on here. I've thrown some pretty heavy stones at these people. Let them come on here and defend themselves. And do it peacefully. People who disagree can have a conversation. Right now it ain't going good. I'm not expecting much. Now, I've got a lot of ideas, a lot of guests, a lot of people who I am here. I am willing to have people come on here who I disagree with. I can't guarantee that they're going to come on. So I want this audience to know that the attempts are being made. We are trying to get people on here. But some of them won't even. Why was Marty Walsh able to politely decline, but the others couldn't even be bothered? I'll tell you this too. In the case of Marty Walsh, the way I had to kind of get in touch with him, I wasn't that confident in the vehicle upon which to ask this. I would say it was a little more. I don't know what I'm looking for. Put it this way. When you're doing this, you're not sure if the messages are reaching the person. Marty was the one I least likely thought would. The fact that he actually got the message says to me the other ones got the message too. And they're just like, who is this guy? Now back to the conservative radio. There's a lot of people out there that are going to hear this. And I'm going to say, this guy has lost his mind. He wanted Charlie Baker to come on the show so he could challenge Baker on his decisions during the coronavirus. There's nothing crazy about that. These are public servants who have forgotten the theory, the concept that they work for us. You are the boss. I am the boss. Brian is the boss. This is something that is lost. If these people no longer hold the position they held during the coronavirus, then technically, yeah, they could say, hey, that's not my job anymore. I don't have to answer anyone. But morally, I would hope they would want to come on here. Because all these people I hear about, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to serve the little guy. I'm your governor too. And now I want answers. The people in this audience want answers. This is a small little start, a small little conversation. And we can't even get out of the batter's box. They owe nothing to us. No explanation, no nothing. If this gets back to any of them and they want to change their mind and come on, we'll set it up. It was going to be a Zoom call, by the way. They don't have to come in here or anything like that. We can do it remotely. What I'm saying, if you think it's crazy, you're part of the problem. If there are people or hosts or producers out in the talk conservative radio world that think I'm crazy, if there are conservative bloggers, reporters, politicians who think I'm crazy or I'm lost my mind, they're part of the problem. Nothing I'm doing or saying is crazy or nuts. This is rudimentary. You are the public servant. Come on here now. Coronavirus is over. We want answers. And part of it is because they don't have answers. When I ask them, why does the virus not attack when you are at Olive Garden? When you are at Ruby Tuesdays, how come you can take the mask off to eat and nothing happens to you? The deadliest disease of all, deadliest illness, airborne pathogen. Why does it not attack when you're eating? They have no answer. They have absolutely none. Moving right along. And again, this is pertaining to this kind of new conservative movement in Massachusetts. This is something that's a little sensitive. And again, I feel sometimes I'm the bad guy for saying it. But I need people to explain this to me. I'm just an observer. I'm just trying to understand it. Around the clock, and I've said before, people are always sending me stuff. Check this out, check that out, which is fine. Between what is sent to me and what I hear and what I come across on the internet on my own, I am hearing this all the time, constantly. I am hearing about the federal law enforcement agencies are corrupt. They're all corrupt. They're out of control. They're pushing a communist agenda. Then I hear there's this documentary I have to watch called Police State. The name of it is Police State. Oh, yeah. Right. Then I hear about, there was a national talk show the other night about police going into people's homes, taking their guns, or the person did something that was maybe a minor offense, but they turned it into something bigger. And then, of course, I hear the military is building camps to put all the people in, the opposition who speak out. Okay, I want to pick this apart a little bit. First thing I find hilarious, anytime you talk about any type of police brutality or police overstepping their boundaries, the conservatives on these shows, they viciously defend the police, which is fine. You don't know what it's like. A person with a knife or a bat can kill someone with a gun. The police have to do this. They have to overreact. They have to put their foot down. They have to be aggressive for their own safety because they don't know. They don't know what's behind that door. And that's fine. Sure, cool. If that's how you feel, great. I have done nothing against that if that's their approach. What I laugh at, and I mean laugh, and I can't believe I'm hearing this, and it's becoming almost weekly now. I'll hear a story, and I'm not going to get into any specific stories, but a conservative talk show host will get a hold of a story of a guy, 3 a.m, whether it's a federal agency or maybe it's a local police department, or maybe it's a federal agency working in conjunction with the local police department. Because I got to imagine, if the police are coming to your house, they're going to let the local chief know. Hey, there's going to be some activity at this house. Let your guys know it's us. I mean, the local chief would have to kind of know about that. And there'd have to be some cooperation on the local level. I now hear, and I think we did an episode on this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did. These conservative talk show hosts and the audience calling in and actually saying, Why were the police so aggressive? Couldn't they just have knocked on the door? Why didn't they wait till the guy came outside and talked to him? Are you kidding me? Every time a liberal asked those same questions or made those suggestions, you shut it down, you attacked them. You said you're crazy. The police cannot afford. You don't know what's out there. You don't know what people are capable of. The police, this is what the police have to do. And now when you don't like the premise, when you feel that law enforcement is taking your guns away, taking your rights away, invading your private property, now you say, well, why couldn't they just wait till the guy was out getting the mail and talk to him then? You got to be kidding me. You guys just sound like fools. You sound like fools. It's embarrassing. Knock it off. Make up your mind. Make up your mind. The other thing I laugh at, and I've talked about this before, is people go, I need my guns to protect myself from a tyrannical government. Listen to me, mate. Here's the deal. If your government or your law enforcement, local agency, federal or otherwise, local, you name it, if they've got an issue with you, what's going to happen is this. 30 of them are going to come into your house at 3 in the morning, and they're going to shove guns in your face, in your kids' faces, and if your wife's head gets blown off in the process, whether intentional or by accident, these people will not lose an ounce of sleep over it. That's what you're dealing with. They know how to deal with you. You're not fighting back anyway. You're not fighting back anybody. This whole thing with if you have weapons to protect yourself from burglars or these gamma male freaks that go on a shooting spree out in public, great. Have your weapon, have your gun. But as far as the government goes, knock it off. You're not stopping anybody. You're not going to fight your government. You're not organized, my man. Again, when the coronavirus when it began, I thought there was going to be a mass revolt of people refusing to wear masks. It didn't happen. All the NRA flag-waving people that I know had their mask on. They were lost. They didn't know. Well, I have to go in the store. You're not there yet. You may never get there where you and all the people on your street are on the same page. And we're all going to lock arms and resist. You're not there. It's you by yourself with 30 dudes coming in at 3 in the morning. That's where you're at. That's where you're going to be at for a long time. Sorry. This is something that has upset people in the audience. It's upset the law enforcement in the audience, the military people in the audience. I have said it. I stand by it. I will not back down from this belief when I'm about to reiterate again. And what I'm about to say is not judging anyone's character. It's not attacking anyone. It's not questioning choices people made in their life or why they do what they do or what their occupation is. I'm just being honest. I'm being honest. If you want me to lie to you, I will. And I'll sit here and I'll pretend that it's not what I think if it makes everyone feel better. Because conservatives love making fun of people that maybe aren't as tough as them. Making jokes about, oh, did I hurt your feelings? So right now I'm going to try and not hurt your feelings. I do not believe, and I say it again, I do not believe that the armed, whatever you want to call them, security forces, I don't even think police or military is even the right word. Let's call them safety, security, law enforcement. I mean, I kind of put it all in one category on all the different levels because I think in some ways they do all work in junction with each other. They all bounce off each other. Whatever it is, whatever that machine is, whatever you want to call it, I do not believe when push comes to shove that they will side with the people. I just don't. Historically, speaking, these forces. Go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say, when shit hits the fan, typically the enforcers are the ones who have their families fed by
Yes.
the people, trying to.
Brian, you said something to me, if I can quote you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said this. I brought this up in an earlier episode, and you made it you said it. Well, first, what I said, and this is what got you to say it. I said, there is incredible social pressure if you're in the military or if you're in law enforcement. Not just social pressure, financial pressure to follow orders. You will lose everything if you don't.
It's
if you don't.
job.
Right. And what you said was, you said you cut in. I don't know what episode it was, and you said the mission comes first, the orders come first. You think about all that other stuff.
Even though the soldier's creed states in the first couple lines, "I serve the American people," the mission comes first.
Brian, I gotta say it. You're in the military. I just want people to know that. Okay, so this isn't hogwash what we're talking. This is coming from someone who is on the inside. And might I add, a lot of this I'm saying, it's worth mentioning, was actually one of the reasons I kept bringing this up and talking about this on this show. It was actually personal friends of mine who are police officers that are very conflicted with all this. That question, who am I working for? What am I enforcing? So this isn't me out just throwing stones at people and starting an anti-cop rant. It's not that at all. It's me looking at the landscape. Let me say this. Right now, the right wing is inundated with people who are calling the federal law enforcement agencies corrupt. I already went over this. Again, there's a film now called Police State. I can tell you stories where local, look at the coronavirus. There were police out there going up to skate parks and giving kids tickets for not having masks. Those were local. Those weren't even federal. I mean, it was on all levels.
It was Dinesh D'Souza who did that movie, by the way.
Okay. I tried watching it with my friend, and we couldn't get it on the TV. I made every attempt to see it. I have not seen it.
It's on Rumble.
Yet. Oh, is it really?
Yeah, I can link you up.
Okay, I didn't know that. I really would like to see it. You have this rhetoric. It's what I call the identity crisis in conservatism right now. On one hand, these are conservatives doing it. And also in these audiences, people who are members of law enforcement will call in and agree with all this. So you've got conservatives, law enforcement, all these people talking about we're in a police state, we're in a communist regime, law enforcement has gone corrupt. But there's going to be this moment where all the police are going to side with the people, and the military and everybody. Okay, during the coronavirus, when everything was being taken from you, wouldn't that be the moment for the military and law enforcement and everyone to say this is out of control? It didn't happen. Donald Trump himself, all these people, Donald Trump. Did Donald Trump help you if you're in Massachusetts? Did he get you out of this mess? Donald Trump was lost. Donald Trump went along with all of this. Donald Trump, like I said, is yet another conservative who took way too long to get on the boat. I mean, there's no nice way of saying it. I believe the financial and social pressure is so immense. I mean, you hear these stories of police kind of resisting or losing their jobs. It's not a lot. In the whole grand scheme of things, it's a tiny little group that actually stand up and say, we're not going to do it. And their lives get ruined. I've heard some of them on other podcasts saying like, yeah, I stood up. I said, I'm not going along with this coronavirus stuff. And look at me now. I lost my job. I lost everything trying to get it back. So why would you stand up? I don't fault anybody. I said it. I'm no different. I said it a bunch of times on this show. I had to do things at my job that I'm not proud of. That it was either do this or you got no job. So the police are no different. I just think it's funny that how do your Holy Grail documentary right now that's being passed around is called Police State, but then on the other hand, you're saying the police are gonna have this mass movement where they're gonna side with the people. Which is it? Which is it? By the way, I'll tell you something interesting. I was looking up. Man, you'd be surprised. Well, first of all, a lot of conservatives, this is the other thing that cracks me up. There have been moments, like during the last election, where there were conservatives, actually, I heard them say it, and it was said a lot, saying to stop the election from being stolen, if you believe it was stolen, Trump's got to declare martial law. Are you kidding me? You want martial law? No thanks. Conservatives asking for this. Let me talk about martial law for a moment. Not even take martial law. Put that aside for a second. Something interesting I've been reading about. I'd say most Americans are under the belief that the military cannot operate on American land, cannot be used against its people. But I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I can name examples back to the 60s where the military, I'm not talking about the National Guard or the Coast Guard, I'm talking about the other branches that are out fighting in other countries, were used during riots or protests or dangerous gatherings. There's been several. And I'm like, how can that be? There's a lot of loopholes. The president or Congress, apparently, at any moment, this idea that the military can't be used on the people, in a situation that the president or Congress deems dangerous, they can change that. The military can, if they can all get on the same page, they can use the military against you. And it has been done in very small doses. I think another thing that I'm kind of reading, it seems like, the National Guard is kind of one of those weird loopholes, because the National Guard can be used for crowd control. And if you look at the history of the National Guard, it seemed to me it was kind of born out of the idea of a militia. Like, this is a more advanced, like, state militia. So it's kind of one of those loopholes. Like, oh, the National Guard is here with the state, and they're with us. They're working with us. Listen, man, again, if you get the order, if you're given the command, I don't think it matters. And again, I'm not saying this to hurt. This is a tough pill to swallow. I want people in the audience who are in the military, who are in the National Guard, who are part of law enforcement on whatever level. I want them to be part of this audience. I want them to be part of the discussion. I want them to be part of the solution. A lot of what I'm saying was inspired by friends I have in law enforcement, local police who are listening to this show, who are frustrated, who are conflicted. So I'm trying to address it. I've had a lot of things to say about the police. There's a lot I don't like about what goes on. I've done episodes about, the reading of plates with that technology, taking pictures of people's vehicles. I don't like it. I talked about it in other episodes. I'm not going to get into it. I've talked about, every cop car now is a black tinted window. It's separating the police from the public. I've gotten into detail about all this. I've said some very unkind things about the police. But I'll tell you this too, and you don't know this about me. I've got a lot of friends, police, that have done bad things, that have gotten in trouble, that don't have their job anymore, that have done things that were stupid, and they know it was stupid, and they abused their power. And in many of those cases, I was the only friend they had. Unlikely friend, considering my beliefs. Again, what I say on this mic, what I say in this show is not a reflection of how I treat people. Okay, when I step away from this, human to human, I don't care what you did. I'm cool with everybody. I try to help people. It is now amongst conservative circles, it's socially acceptable now to say that the FBI is. This is okay. How about this too? They go, oh, it's these law enforcement agencies, the federal agencies, they're corrupt now. Now, where have you been? This has been going on for decades. The Central Intelligence Agency, most Americans, if you ask them, they're going to say their job is to collect information of other countries, people that might attack us. But they're also collecting data and information on you, watching what you do, watching what the American citizens do. We're not supposed to be afraid of our government. We're not supposed to be afraid of these agencies. All we do is we have made a habit of making fun of other countries who are afraid of their law enforcement agencies, who are afraid of their secret police and their leaders. People in this country are terrified of the CIA, of the IRS, of the ATF, of the FBI, Homeland Security, you name it, the NSA, and it shouldn't be that way. You should not be afraid of them at all. What has happened? Why are we afraid of why are there any agencies that we are terrified of? And again, there are people in these agencies that if they were given the command, you're nothing to them. Your freedom, we know this now. These agencies have people that are paid to kill people. They'll think nothing of killing people. Now, we justify it. Oh, well, we sent them to another country and there was this guy who was abusing his people and we had to take care of it. Okay. But what happens when, like we see now, when we deem these agencies to be corrupt? And now the command is to focus the attention on you. Like I said, when everything in your life depends on you getting that job done, you're probably going to do it. These agencies are not afraid of you. There are people, unfortunately, in this world, and they hide behind the idea that this doesn't happen in America, that your life means nothing to them. Nothing. Nothing. If you're in the way, if you're a problem, and I'm not saying it's necessarily people in law enforcement. It could be, it could be a big company, big businesses, corrupt leaders in conjunction, pulling the strings of these agencies. It might not even necessarily be a person inside the agency that is corrupt. It's just a person that is being used to carry out these wishes. It's very intricate, very difficult. And again, what I'm saying and what I'm doing, inviting people on the show to discuss it, there's nothing crazy about it at all. At all. Now, I want to say a couple more things on that. Right here locally, over the years, there's been a lot of people, and this is another area where people have been very hostile towards me. And again, I stand by it. I do not back down from it. The hero worship, or not hero worship, I would say the worship or the idolizing, deitizing of athletes in this state. It's disgusting. It's insanity. And that is part of your problem. How can you stand up to corruption when you're a slave to the local sports teams? And I do think it's a problem. And now you see some of these young conservatives, again, this is something I would say, you're starting to see it slowly and slowly, making fun of the worshiping of athletes, calling all sports ball. It's happening now. I'm seeing it. People have brought it to me. Hey, look, man, some of these young conservatives are finally lashing out against athletes and the worshiping of athletes. There you go, again. How much hatred was thrown my way. Not because I said anything bad about any local athletes. Not because I said anything bad about the Red Sox or the Celtics or the Patriots or the Red Sox. But because I simply just didn't bow down to them. And I said, I'm an individual. I owe them nothing. Again, this concept was earth-shattering to your average New England citizen. And they get defensive, they get angry, because when they hear something that is outside of their way of thinking, they lash out at it. If people believe they're part of the problem, they're going to get angry at me. I don't bow down to Rob Gronkowski. I don't bow down to the Celtics. I don't bow down to the Bruins. I owe them nothing. I'm an individual. I have self-respect. If you're into sports, if you like that stuff, that's fine. But this attitude where you're gonna beat the snot out of somebody because they were wearing a Yankee shirt, you'll throw your whole life away. It's disgusting. You, my friend, are a slave. That's all I have to say to you. It's disturbing. And the way people act around here, and they celebrate it. People are proud of the fact that we are looked at as a state where people are rude. The way you act, people will get in a fist fight over sports. They will get in a fist fight because someone cut them off on the road, on the highway. But yet when you're told, stand 10 feet apart, wash the doorknob, but everybody can touch the box of crackers in the store and not catch the virus that way, you just do what you're told. The things that make you angry versus what is worth getting angry over, the margin is disturbing. You will go to battle over sports, but yet you'll let your governor dictate to you how you're supposed to live. Do you think there's a problem with that? Look at the local news, another disturbing entity. I want to get some local news people on. I'm not confident at all. At all. Brian, I would love to get some local news people on here. Some of the people.
Maybe some ex-news people.
Good idea. Good idea. Maybe they would come on. That's a great idea. I just want to ask them. Well, first of all, the reason I bring them up with the sports is look at their promos, their advertisements. It is misery. A tree fell on someone's house. Right. A tree fell on someone's house. A car crash. This happened. The world's falling apart. And then towards the end of the commercial, for a quick second, and get the Red Sox score. For a few moments, we're going to take the boot off your head and let you have some fun with this. When we finally let you have a little bit of relaxation, get away from it all, it's got to be Red Sox. We got to make sure what your loyalty is.
Bread and circus?
Yep. I began as a toddler, watching adults around me, watching the news. 2, 3 years old, I started developing this idea. And I have not let go. I will not let go. It is one of my life missions. Why is it okay to approach somebody when they're going through a tragedy, when they're having possibly the worst moment of their life, film them, ask them for an interview, ask the neighbors for an interview, take photos or video of the tragedy, put it on television for the whole state to see it without their permission? It's going up whether they want it to or not, because after all, freedom of the press, which I think freedom of the press is abused. That's supposed to be to combat corrupt politicians. It's not to be used to exploit people's tragedy. Why is it okay to do that? And how do you have an entire country, an entire planet that sees this every day? And I can't find anyone else that thinks this is messed up. I've told you, again, lunacy. What I do is considered lunacy. I don't think it is, but most people would look at me like I'm nuts. I've walked right up to reporters. I've seen them camped out at people's houses where horrible things happened. Kids have lost their lives. And I walk right up to them. Hey, how much money do you think you made off this family? I confront the reporters. I've caught it on video before. They have no answer for me. They're shooken up. They're silent. They look down. They're sad. They know what they're doing is wrong. I want a reporter to come in here so I can ask them, why is it okay for you to do that? When that church came down, I think it was in Spencer, caught on fire, and they caught it on video, the roof. Fox News, if they didn't use that 10 months to a year, I mean, they just kept showing that clip over and over again. Those poor people, their church gets ripped apart, catches on fire, demolished.
Yeah, make sure you get the steeple going.
And then after that, as if it wasn't worse, for the next 10 months, every single time you see a Fox News commercial, there's that steeple coming down.
John Williams music behind it.
They go back to Spencer. They go, the new church has been built. And this is the other thing I don't get. I've seen this too many times. The person that they made the money off of, or the people, they'll go back, and these people will willingly go on camera and like be friendly. My friend, these reporters are not doing you a favor. They're using you. They made money off your tragedy. And now you're talking to them like, oh, and no, does anyone ever tell these people like, no, I don't want to talk to you. I don't like what you're doing here. I want some of these reporters to come on. And again, I want to have discussions. Brian, you've kind of said, I'm not going to name names, but you've had a little different approach. You were kind of like, you named some local politicians that, where I'm trying to get people I disagree with for the debate, you've kind of been like, how about start with some people that probably are on the same page with us? They'd probably be a little more willing to come on, and maybe that would be a good start, and that would inspire the other ones that I kind of disagree with to maybe take that step and join us. So I'm kind of considering that too. I've got a lot of ideas, but again, I know this is a tough sell. You want to come on here so I can rip you apart for your coronavirus mandates? In a way, I mean, I think they're cowards, but I also...
We're going to put you on trial.
Right. I also, yeah, it is kind of a trial. I also think that I do understand why they would be hesitant to come on here. I get it. You know, they're not confident in what they did, in their beliefs, because they don't even know why they did it. Want to wrap up with something that's been all over the news that I think I'd love to give my opinion on.
Cicadas.
No, but
spiders that fly that are venomous.
Have you ever heard those things before?
What? Boy?
Have you ever those cicadas?
Yeah.
Have you been out to the Midwest?
Yeah, I see them here.
First time I ever heard those things out in Illinois, boy, were they loud. I was like, what on earth is that?
They've been here every year for the past like 10 years.
I heard they're moving this way. Yeah. This was about 10 years ago, and I'd never heard them before. I couldn't believe we're out in the woods in Illinois. It was actually at a show, believe it or not, at like a campground, kind of like out in a secluded area. And those things were as loud as the music. It was every time the music stopped, like whatever that sound was. No, something that's been all over the place, and I'd like to comment on it, is Harrison Buckner, is that how you say his name, from the Chiefs, gave his speech.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and said that, well, let me pick this apart a little bit. He did not tell women they can't pursue a career. He did not tell them they need to sit in the kitchen and not leave the house and be barefoot. He did not tell them their job is to be pregnant and make babies. He did no such thing. I listened to the whole speech. He said, whatever you do in your life probably won't bring you the same joy as being a mother. I can't believe people are this worked up on the left and this sensitive. It's like, I guess I should believe it. Here's what I have to say to that. Again, this movement, right, this is yet another one of these movements that I was on top of many, many years ago. In fact, I would say most people out in this area, especially in the local music scene, their only exposure to these concepts were from me for for decades. This thing now that is so normally talked about, for years I was one of the only ones speaking about it. And it is this. It is this. What he's saying and his views are actually a rebellion right now. It's a backlash. There are communities all over the internet, especially on YouTube, and I would imagine Rumble as well. And there are podcasts out there where men are lashing out at the behavior of women. Now, the first thing I want to say is this. I kind of laugh at this because when I hear guys saying, you know, girls have been indoctrinated. They're taught to go out, party, become strippers, sleep with as many people as possible, et cetera, et cetera. I said, yeah. And for many years while this was going on, the men applauded it. The men were no better. The train of thought right now is that women have been corrupted. I'd say the men have been corrupted too. The men have gone right along with this every step of the way. But there is a backlash right now. There's a backlash against, you know, the party life, the strip club life, the girls gone wild life. I got pregnant, now I'm going to have an abortion. There's a backlash now. And there are even women. That's what's so crazy about it. There are communities, growing communities of women now saying, Women need to stop acting like this. And again, I remind the audience, if you think I'm beating up on girls, I'm not. I think it's girls and boys. A lot of these movements single out the behavior of women. I don't single out. I think the men have been just as atrocious. Men sleep around just as much. Men tell their girlfriends, I don't want a baby, get an abortion, or they sit back and do nothing. Men applaud this behavior. So I don't know where any guy is getting off or being high and mighty, pointing his finger at women, because the men are doing it too. It's a problem of both genders. But anyway, I believe what Harrison Butker said was a reflection of this. It's a backlash. It's a rebelling of sex, drugs, and rock and roll that have taken over this planet. People have had enough of Nicki Minaj and Miley Cyrus and Cardi B telling girls to have absolutely having no self-respect at all and celebrating it.
There's also the poisoning of the idea of the family unit.
That too. Yeah, absolutely. There's that. And well, I would say this, Brian, you're right, but the way to poison it is through those kind of vehicles that already
television.
Right. If people are following this type of thing where, sleep with as many people as you can.
Hookup culture.
Right, hookup culture, then that's ultimately going to lead to the destruction of the family. And again, another one of these situations, Brian, I'm telling you, I can name names. I would never do it. I would never put anyone on the spot. I'm not that type of person, but I can name names, people in my own life, who when I said this back in the early 2000s, back in the 90s, when I talked about this topic, they all said the same thing. You need to relax. You need to have a beer. And now these people have been put through the ringer. They're divorced. Their wife has taken the kids. They have been punished by this lifestyle. And now they come crawling back to me and saying, you were right. I was right. So again, when people kind of laugh at me and they're condescending towards me, you can see why I get kind of bitter. But yeah, Harrison Butker. I think this is part of all. I mean, we're finally seeing this reckoning. You're seeing girls now out there saying, with these YouTube channels, and there's like thousands and hundreds of thousands of girls backing them up, saying we want to get married right out of high school and wear a dress and have babies and not have a job. And listen, man, I'm not saying I'm endorsing that as the way to go, or that's what women should be doing. What I'm saying is, how many decades can you have of Britney Spears and of Kesha before girls themselves are finally going to rebel? By the way, Britney Spears, one thing I want to say about her, she's one of many girls that put on this tough girl attitude. You can't hang with me. You can't you can't handle what I got. I'm a girl, be threatened by me. And then her life fell apart. So Britney wasn't really that intense as she made herself out to be. More like a victim of what she was put on a pedestal to do for somebody else, for a company, for a business, to make money, to destroy the family, however you want to define it. I want to finish with something that might be a little off topic. I don't know where to squish this in. Maybe I should have done a whole episode on it, but I just want to finish this. As we're moving into the summertime, I've done a lot of reflecting and thinking about just like weather and winter and stuff. I've been very honest many times in this show that I understand that, the Earth Protection Agency, Environmental Protection Agency, government agencies are using the environment or fear of an environmental collapse to control people. I get it. I get that some people think global warming isn't man-made and this and that. I'm fine with all of that. But I also think it's naive to think that what we do to the earth isn't damaging. I think it's disgusting. All the smog, all the trash, all the pollution. They've got a map of Massachusetts where you can see where all the Dunkin' Donuts are. I've always said they should also make the map. The joke is the whole map's covered with Dunkin' Donuts. They should also make a map with all the Dunkin' Donuts trash, because the whole map would be covered with that too. I've seen people throw stuff on the ground and say, who cares? Global warming ain't real. Okay, but you should still throw trash on the ground? Come on. It's disturbing. I remember when, you could walk down to a lake. This is real. Once winter hit, the lake kind of in my neighborhood where I grew up, I was talking to a friend that I grew up with, and we were reflecting on. I said, "Remember when during the winter we never said, 'Hey, let's see if the lake was frozen.' We just knew it was going to be frozen. How crazy is that? We would just, as long as it was winter, we're like, let's go walk on the lake." I remember snowstorm after snowstorm after snowstorm after snowstorm all winter long. I heard a retired teacher say that the other day that in the last couple years, some of the teachers this person still keeps in touch with, they had a snow day. And the kids didn't know. They were like, "What's a snow day?" These really young kids. They'd never seen a snow day before. This used to be a winter wonderland. It's not anymore. To me, that's cause for alarm. There's got to be something going on. And I don't completely believe that this is all natural. All I'm asking is, don't rule out the fact that our behavior is not damaging to the earth. I know a lot of people that hunt, that are Republicans, that are conservatives, but they still care about the environment. They appreciate it. I think you can be a Republican, a conservative, or whatever, and still care about the earth. If it's God's earth and God gave you as a gift, respect it. Respect the animals. You can eat animals. You can eat meat and still respect the animal. And I just want to throw that out there. I think it's disturbing what has happened with the weather. I also think people forget very fast. At the beginning of every summer, it drives me nuts. Yay, summer's here. I'm surrounded by people. Summer's here. I can't wait. Summer's here. The first hot day, they are crying, begging God to make it stop. It's too hot. That's the other thing. You know what? This actually isn't off topic. That's what I want to do. I want to tie that in with the news as my final idea for today's episode. The news. Maybe I'm nitpicking a little bit, Brian. Maybe I'm too in the weeds. Maybe I'm too in the weeds on this. But I look at the news and I say to myself, not only do they kind of select what you're going to know about and not know about, they even tell you how you're going to feel.
Yes.
It drives me nuts when they say it's cold, it's 30 degrees out, but you're going to feel like it's 10 degrees out. It's 90 degrees out, but it's going to feel like it's 110.
I love that real feel.
What if I like cold weather? What if it doesn't feel that way at all? People always laugh at me because they're like, dude, they see me shoveling snow without a coat on. Okay, so maybe it doesn't feel like 5 degrees to me. Maybe someone...
We're from here.
What?
We're from here.
Right. Well, maybe somebody from that's from the south or from a hot area, it's not going to feel like 100 degrees to them. They might be cold in it. How do you know? Like, to me, it's like the audacity of these people to tell you how you're going to feel. This is how it's going to make you feel.
That's what television's point is.
But
meant to tell you what's up.
So, Brian, my point is this. I see these girls on the news. They're like, "Yay, can't wait for summer. Get out those whatever. Get out the whatever, the swimmies for the kids, whatever it is, right? All this stuff. You got to get something out. Time to get
watch out for sharks.
Yeah, bring this out.
Watch out for sharks in their natural habitat.
Right. By the way, I don't buy this thing about I'm becoming a dude. Shark attacks are so rare. I'm starting to slowly not believe that. I'm really losing
They're
faith.
out there, but they don't give a fuck about us.
Right,
There's a bunch of seals everywhere that they love to notch on.
That too. Right. Yeah, the seals attract them. But back to the news. The news people will do the same thing. They sit there all winter. Can't wait for summer. Can't wait for summer. The minute there's that first hot day, they give you the most miserable, panicked report about how you might collapse if you go out in this. Is it just me or are they playing
Every
games?
year it's climate change is here.
And then when the winter comes, it's back to that again. I feel like they're toying with me. They're toying with people.
It's mind control.
I am not big on summer, but I try to have a positive attitude about it. The minute that news comes on, I have to change it because they will destroy my mood. I realize
Don't watch the news. Just go outside.
Right. I realized, Brian, this a few years back. Local news is making me miserable and it's contributing to my depression in my negative view on life. And that whole thing, shut it off, that really is true. When I keep local news away from me, I'm a happier person. I said, if in the middle of the summer, I'm not a big fan of the summer, if I put that news on in the summer, they're going to tell me how miserable my life is, how miserable you are, how suicidal everyone is because it's hot out. And mind you, all
And
winter...
then it'll give you a depression pill commercial.
Right, that too. All winter long, all they did was beg Jehovah to descend from the sky and bring us warm weather. And the second they got it, now it's time to switch on the warm weather depression. It is unbelievable. Now, that does not mean don't educate yourself. I'm very specific. I believe it's local news that does this. I'm not against the national news, the world news. Although some might, I know, Brian, where you going next with this. But all I'm trying to say is this, Brian. I'm not telling people not to be educated. I'm just saying this local news with the tragedies in the weather, in the worship of athletes, you people out here in Massachusetts, you got to start getting wise to this. You got to start having some self-respect. That's my opinion on that. So, look, 1 year anniversary, episode 14. I have not given up on having some guests on that I disagree with. I think it will happen. It's going to be difficult. And it's not going to happen as much as I wanted it to happen.
What you told me is you wanted someone to come on and debate you. So if you approach it with that, people would be a little more interested, if they were into like you using the D word.
Brian, I used that word. I was polite as polite can be.
Well, then they're just being
Brian,
jerks.
you should have seen how nice and generous and kind I was with the people on the phone. Hey, I understand this is a little out of the order. I talked like this. I talked in my librarian voice. We just want to know if they come on. I'm not trying to pick on them. I'm not going to railroad them. I almost talked like NPR. Like, Brian, I'm telling you, you should have seen. I can show you some of the emails. I was so polite and non-threatening. They want nothing to do with this.
They're not getting a Dunkin' Donuts gift card. Ever.
Should I offer them one? Is that what will get them on?
I mean, it's poison, so go ahead.
I mean, I'm disappointed. I really am, Brian. I really think, wouldn't it be wonderful if Gina Raimondo came on here and we just discussed, like, Gina, look, this is how I would talk to her. Brian, let's do this right now. Can we do this for the end of the show? You're Gina Raimondo.
Wow.
This is exactly what I would say to her. Gina, listen, I respect you for coming on this show. I know this is not easy. But you got to understand, we're on the other side of the kind of glass, if you will. We're not in the same world as you. People's lives were ruined over this. People were told to do things, to wear a mask. You went around with the police. You said you're going to show up and take care of business. And then twice, you were caught without a mask. You were in a group of people, surrounded by people in a crowd with no mask. Do you see the problem here, Gina? Do you see why people might be a little perturbed? This is how I would talk to her.
Dan, you're absolutely right, and I think we should have capital punishment for treason across the board.
Do you know what I think? I hear people saying Anthony Fauci has to do jail time, and I am guilty of saying...
They could put him as a fucking, what's it called? When you just prop one person up to fucking smash a problem, be like, all right, yeah, we took care of it, see?
Right. Well,
Scapegoat?
This is what I think.
Scapegoat, yeah, that
Brian,
thing.
This is what I think. And I've said these guys should do jail time. I don't want to see people's...
Not only that, he'll do jail in a place that,
right.
It's a resort. It's like, he's not going to jail.
I know. And Brian, I don't want to see people's lives ruined over this. If someone did jail time, honestly, I think a few months in jail would make someone think and be like, wow, what did I do? I don't even think it has to be long. Just enough to think. Again, I don't want to see people's lives.
I think if we put the guillotine on the lawn, people would think twice about doing shitty things.
I don't want to pass that type of judgment on people. I don't want someone's life, as angry as I am at these people, I don't want to see Anthony Fauci's life ruined, as crazy as that sounds. Again, I am a loving human being with sympathy for other people, okay? What I think, you know what the real punishment would be? Some type of economic punishment. Anthony, you have to pay a $500,000 fine because these people love money. Something like that would really be like, listen, you ruined businesses, you took people's livelihood away, now you're going to pay a price.
Then listen, you restructure the courts and you have the people decide these people's fates instead of these, these suits that decide.
Dude, that's another thing too. The courts. I've been watching a lot of
Bonus.
court stuff. Why? Have you ever seen the way that judges and lawyers talk to people in a courthouse? It's nasty. Why are you as a taxpayer spoken to that way? Why is it okay when you step into a courthouse, people can speak to you impolitely? The judge is untouchable. We're supposed to be equals, but you have to rise when the judge walks in. So you have to stand for another human being. To me, we laugh at England in other countries because they bow to the. What's the difference between?
Could be like a Freemason thing.
What's the difference between bowing to a royalty and standing up for a judge?
Could be a Luciferian court thing. Could be the devil.
Brian.
Could be the devil.
I don't like talking about this because I think it's just kind of a cliche news topic.
What, Satan?
And no, people are like, "What do you think? What do you think?" And I'm like, I don't kind of really don't care. But this girl over in Canton.
Yeah. The other show does that shit. I mean,
what does this say? Are they implying that all these different? I mean, the state and local police and the detectives were part of some. What is the implication?
The implication is if the police are lying, they can get away with doing things.
But is that
and they're a protected class because it's a class issue.
Right.
Because Karen Reed is supposed to be one of us,
right?
A regular person, but she's not getting justice when it's compared to the enforcers of the upper class.
Right. So what I'm getting at, Brian, and admittedly I haven't followed this. I guess what I'm asking you is this, and you answered it, but I'll just.
That's just on its face.
Right. But I guess you did answer the question. I guess my confusion was, I get they're saying she's innocent, but my question is, okay, so if she's innocent, is that saying that the police in that area did something really nasty? That's what I'm getting at?
Yeah,
that would be the implication
issue where
right?
It's questioning police corruption.
Brian, did you see? This is the part that this is crazy.
And also, I had a sweet ass point about
What?
this, but you go ahead.
Well, will you forget? I don't want you to forget your point. I won't forget this.
I'm gonna rebrew that one.
Okay.
I'm gonna cook.
Do you know what kind of freaked me out a little bit? The alcohol, tobacco, firearms agent that they said he works with the Canton police or is implanted in the like there was some ATF guy involved, and I'm like, why does the Canton police have an ATF agent working with them? Am I the only one that's kind of a little freaked out by that?
I think when I read the headlines, it says he was a Boston police officer, but they were hanging with Canton police because they're from Canton, maybe.
But hanging, it's more than hanging if they're showing up.
They're always hanging and begging. They're literally a fraternity.
Right, but it sounded to me, and if I got this wrong, please, I'm not. It sounded to me. I know in that story they talk a lot about the socializing that they were doing outside of work.
Yeah.
It sounded to me
like they're drinking all the time.
But it sounded to me
like
that ATF guy was kind of part of the Canton, like working with them, possibly investigating this crime. That's what I'm getting at.
The way I see it, that every police office, every post has like their agent, their connect.
To me, that's something, and I don't know, but I feel like that, again, that's one of these things that seems to happen more recently. It's not something I remembered back 30 years ago. It's more with like the war on terror and that type of thing.
Exactly.
That you're seeing that.
And you prolong that kind of thing, which brings me back to my quick little point.
Yeah.
Is that another thing is that this case has been going on for how long? This thing happened 2 years ago or something like that. So this thing's going to build up and it's going to end up having a Netflix special. So all I see is people just dragging this out for money.
Right. Is that the point you were going to make?
Yeah.
Brian, do you notice? I remember, so back around the time when I was out hearing the cicadas in Illinois, one thing I noticed playing music and traveling and touring and stuff, you see a lot of the country, and I noticed in other parts of the country, the sheriff. I used to always laugh because people would like refer to the sheriffs. I would see the sheriffs like pulling people over, and I'm like, it's funny to me because back in Massachusetts, the sheriffs, you don't really think much about them. The sheriff's department. I notice more and more and more, the sheriffs around here are more involved in like local law enforcement. You see them more. You see the cars. That was something that, again, I specifically remember the first couple times I toured like the South or the Midwest. That was something I noticed. and thinking how odd it was, and then watching it happen more and more around here. And I didn't know if there was anything, if you had any ideas about, I don't know. That's kind of, I don't even know what I'm getting at.
Maybe
I just think it's odd.
Maybe it's like you're driving through a county and it's less populated than an area like this. Eastern Massachusetts is a little more dense.
See, the county means more to them.
And they have more time. Right. They can actually cover the ground and like know all the people in the community. It's a case like that. Whereas, you know, a lot of other moving around between counties, we're so dense around here. Like you can drive an hour to work and go police a town over there. You know what I mean?
Anyone in the South listening to this knows what I'm talking about. They will refer to the county. What county do you live in? Up here, no one ever talks about the county.
And then in Illinois, you got like a sheriff doing 3 counties. Right. And the boys under him have always worked there in that county. Right. You know what I mean?
This is a point you've made a lot, that we need to kind of get back to that. I'm not making a joke.
No, there is another counterpoint that I have brought on the show. There are people in your fucking town that are from your town policing it. Right. I'm not saying but there is a little shift making around where people are not elected.
You've kind of like, dude, I know this sounds funny, but I am being serious. You've implied to me we almost have to get back to that like Andy Griffith's show, police department type thing, where like, it's the people in the town policing themselves. Like the police department needs to be local people and not for outside kind of contractor, if you will.
At this point, it's going to have to be a group of sheriffs.
You know what else too, Brian, is kind of weird? I've heard this idea, and I've had this idea too. What if the local police chiefs ran, like it was like an office? So they have to run. So if they make a mistake or people don't like them, they can vote them out. That's a good idea, but I think that could get weird too, because now if someone voted for you, you might feel obligated to look the other way if they're doing something wrong. Like that could also backfire. So I don't know what the answer is. That brings me, you know what? There is another point I want to make. Know who your local departments are in all cases. Everything is political. The water department, the zoning board, whatever it's called. Someone doesn't like you. You got an issue with somebody. Yep, you can't build that porch. Sorry. Which I think that's crazy, that you have to check in the town to extend your porch by one step. I think it's out of control. Fire departments can be politicized. We're in a studio. How many times have we seen studios? Oh man, the fire marshal, he's trying to shut me down. I mean, Peter Criss talked about that all the time in the band Kiss, his book. They'd be in certain towns. They knew they could give the fire marshal money, and if there was too many people in the building, they could get some extra ones in. They should give them some money, look the other way. Fire departments can be politicized. Again, this is tough stuff for people to hear. The water department, the school board, it doesn't matter. These different departments, these figureheads in your town have power. They are political entities. When we're doing all this Marty Walsh nonsense, shelter in place, I said you're evacuating. This is the safety protocol. Safety before freedom. Who's in on all that? The chief helps make those decisions. You got to know who these people are, because he may be part of your rights being taken away. Again, I know people don't want to hear that. This is tough for people to hear. But these departments are political. Know who your leaders are in your town. Know who they all are. You can take up these jobs. You can run for the school board. Get involved in that stuff. That's another one too, Brian. I'd like to get, I know I've said it before, I'm definitely at some point, Pembroke Rising. I'm trying to get in touch with them. If anyone knows how to get in touch with them, I think I emailed them. I found some of their social media. They're a little tough to track down. It seems that the social media is a little I don't know.
Shadow banned.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like they're like keeping up
suppressed.
On it. Yeah, it doesn't see, I've put like minimal effort. Here I am saying like, these people won't get back to me, but then at the same time I'm saying like, could I get in touch with maybe Pembroke Rising didn't want to come on. They were afraid of what I was going to say to them. No, I don't think they're getting the messages. I don't know how organized their social media, their answering services. But as far as emails, but I am going to I've got an idea on how to get in touch with them. I don't think they're avoiding me. I think in that case, they haven't heard from me yet. So I'd like to get them on. There's a lot of people I'd like to get on. You know, Brian had some ideas. Brian said, Brian, can I say it? One of the ideas you had, there was a politician.
I'll allow it.
You'll allow it? Thank you.
What, Jeff Dale?
Yeah, you've said he would like to come on here. That'd be great. I think he'd give us some credibility if he came on. I'm open to it. So, but again, these are people that we don't have an axe to grind with, so it'd probably be a little easier to get them on.
Well, here's the thing about running for office. Well, you got people like Ron Paul. Cool, yeah, sure. They let him fucking do his thing.
Right.
But in order to be going up in politics, you're gonna have to take a couple black eyes or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and coming on here,
everybody crosses that road that gets into politics, and the good people either get out or they have to taint their reputation or something.
I'm just afraid of someone like Jeff Dale if he wants to, do more political stuff in the future. Being on this show could be a black eye down the road. Someone hasn't, you went on that show and those guys are this and that. How could you go on there? So I don't know. That might deter someone from coming on. But anyway, so Brian, a year. We've been a year now, episode 14. This was my State of the Union address for the year.
Yeah.
My reflection. We have
again,
we have an Instagram now. We have an email address. Form Voltron Show at protonmail.com and Form Voltron Podcast on Instagram. It's new. There's not a lot of people on there yet, but we're building it up. And I would say my closing statement is this. If you like this show and the audience is building, it's slowly but surely, but very slowly. I ask everybody in the audience, if you like what we're doing, if you like what we have to say, tell people about this. Spread it around. Brian, you can leave a comment on YouTube. Can you leave a comment on Rumble? All right. You also told me, I think you can leave
comments on Spotify too.
Yeah, you can leave comments on Spotify. So leave comments. Tell us what you think. And again, you can email us. You can email me or send a message on the Instagram. I would, I hope I can get back to everybody. I don't want to be rude or say like I don't want to hear from people. Try to sometimes people send like paragraphs about all this stuff about government, this and that. Keep it. I would say keep it kind of short. Keep it light. I'll get back to you if you like it. If you don't like it, if you disagree, tell me. That's okay too. We got a lot going on, and I can't like shut my day down to have a 10-page conversation. But I do hope I can write back to everybody and interact a little bit with people. But I'd say that's the biggest thing. There's no bigger entity or organization helping us. You got to. It's the people. You got to spread this show around. So that's that. Pass it on to a friend. That's all I got. Brian, happy 1-year anniversary. And we'll catch you all for the next episode.
Take care of each other, everyone.
Peace.